afternoon, Coyotes. Today I'm going to show you some easy weaving steps. A weaving looks like this. It's when we take yarn and we go over and under in a pattern to create a design that, if it got big enough, could eventually become a rug or a blanket. You'll have the option to do a weaving over 2 days of class on these smaller weaving boards. And at the end of this, you can either cut it off and we'll tie off all of the ends so that you have a weaving that is no longer connected to a cardboard backing, or you can leave it as an art piece attached to the cardboard. It's your preference. You'll notice that we have some boards that are already cut in different sizes. If you're wondering why these boards are kind of small, the reason I've chosen to do that is that weaving is a great activity. It's really good for mindfulness, but it also is a little bit time consuming. And so we wanted to make sure that the weaving is something that you can complete in 2 classes. And if you enjoy it enough, we can certainly make larger weavings in the future. This should be just enough for everyone to get practice and master the basic skill. Today, I'm gonna add on to a weaving I started a few years ago. So you'll notice the shape of my weaving board is slightly different, but the process is the same. So to thread your needle, you'll fold your tip of your yarn into like a little loop and then smash it between your thumb and forefinger. You wanna squeeze pretty tight and then just open your fingers a tiny, tiny bit so that you can thread the yarn through the eye of the needle and then pull up. So my challenge now is to go over and under each thread. So if you watch the needle, my last row I was underneath. Now I'm going with the needle on top of it, under the next thread, on top, under, on top, under, on top. And then I will gently pull my thread through here. I want to make sure that I'm pushing this thread down so it's tight with the others. Maybe give it a little bit more of a tug, but I don't want to pull too tight. When I do that, my weaving starts to get crimped in the center. We want to try to keep it a rectangle the whole way through. And if I still have enough string, I'd come back the other direction over and under. This string's looking a little short, so I'm going to show you how to swap colors. I'm going to pull this off temporarily, and then I'll choose my next color of yarn. I recommend just measuring it from like your fingertip all the way out to your shoulder and cutting it here. Tie it in a knot to the thread that you were just using. If you need help with this step, I'm happy to do that, or maybe another student can help you out as well. Make sure it's nice and tight so they don't separate. And then I can trim off those little bits. You'll notice I have another knot on my weaving. It's still visible, but when I'm completely done, I'm gonna use my needle and go back later and tuck that into the back side so that it's not visible. So again, threading my needle, I'm gonna loop that little end of the yarn, squish it between my thumb and forefinger, get it through the eye of the needle. Please note, I'm happy to help you thread your needle. Whatever you do, do not lick your thread. That is a fine strategy for threading your needle at home, but you're at school with shared needles, and I cannot touch your yarn if you've licked it. Okay, so looking at my last row, I'm under. Now I'm taking my needle and going on top, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, gently pulling through. And I'm going to keep repeating this process and adding more yarn as needed. If I find that I prefer to use my fingers instead of the metal needle, that's totally fine. Just do whatever works for you in terms of getting your rows of weaving across. When you are finished, again, you can keep it on the cardboard backing, or we can cut it off and we can add what are called embellishments. All right, so you'll see on here, I've got the beginning of my black row started, and I would just keep going across until I get more black rows. So later we can show you how to tie your weaving to a stick so it can be more like a wall hanging. I also have a bucket of beads, and you can add some beads to the fringe so that it is also more decorative if you choose to make it a wall hanging instead of an artwork that's still attached to the cardboard. Thanks for watching.